Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're heading for the skies to break down the rules of flying a drone here in Malaysia. So whether you're a total pro or you've literally just opened the box on your first drone, this is the explainer you're going to need to fly smart, fly safe, and stay on the right side of the law. All right, let's get into it. You know that feeling, right? You get the plastic off, the battery's finally charged, and all you can think about is getting that amazing, incredible bird's eye view. The urge to just bolt outside and send that thing into the air, it's almost impossible to resist. But hold on a second, because that's where things can get, well, a little tricky. You see, flying a drone isn't quite as simple as just finding a big open space. There's a whole system of regulations that are all designed to keep everybody safe, both up in the air and down on the ground. So before you hit that launch button, let's get you up to speed. Okay, let's start with the absolute must-knows. I want you to think of these as the 5 golden rules that every single hobby pilot needs to have burned into their brain. If you get these right, trust me, you are 90% of the way to being a fantastic, responsible pilot. Rule number 1, altitude. You absolutely cannot fly your drone higher than 400 feet. That's about 120 meters off the ground. Now, why that specific number? Well, it's pretty simple. It keeps you way, way below where most planes and helicopters are flying, creating this super important safety gap in the sky. The second rule is so simple, but it is so critical. If you can't see your drone with your own eyes, you shouldn't be flying it, period. This is called visual line of sight, or VLOS. It means no flying behind a building, no flying over a hill, and definitely not flying so far away it just becomes a tiny little speck. You have to be able to see it to avoid any problems. Next up, let's talk about weight. Your drone, and that includes whatever it's carrying, like a camera, can't be more than 25 kilograms. Now look, for most of us flying consumer drones, this is not even going to be an issue, but it is a really key legal line that separates the drones we fly from those much bigger industrial-grade aircraft. Okay, this one is a massive deal. You have got to stay clear of restricted airspace, and that is especially true for the zones around airports. An aerodrome traffic zone is basically a protective bubble of airspace around an airport, and flying your drone in there without permission is incredibly dangerous, and it comes with some seriously heavy penalties. And finally, our 5th golden rule. This one draws a really clear line in the sand. If you're just flying for fun, for the sheer joy of it, you just follow these hobbyist rules. But the second you start getting paid for it, I'm talking wedding photos, real estate videos, anything commercial, you have just stepped into a whole new world. And that world requires official permission. So if you're planning to go pro with your drone, you're leveling up, and that means getting official approvals. It involves dealing with a few key government agencies, and yeah, I know, that sounds a little intimidating, but it's actually a pretty straightforward and structured process once you know how it works. Navigating the paperwork really just means knowing the 3 main players. First, you've got CAAM, the survey and mapping department. They're the ones who give you the green light to actually film or map an area. Then there's CAAM, the Civil Aviation Authority, who gives you permission to actually use the airspace. And finally, you have CAAM, and they make sure all your radio equipment is compliant. So let's just zoom in on that JUPM permit for a second. The big takeaway here is that they need specifics. They need to know exactly who you are, that's what the company letter and ID are for, and exactly where you plan to fly. That's why you have to submit a digital map file. Oh, and a heads up, if your project is in Sabah or Sarawak, you'll need an extra step, getting supporting letters from the Chief Minister's office. And here is something really important that's kind of tucked away in the official guidelines, and we've translated it for you here. It says that beyond all the permits, you must have insurance. This is not a friendly suggestion, okay? It's a requirement to protect other people. If anything goes wrong, this is what protects both you and the public from damage or injury. Now, you might be looking at a map and wondering, why so many restricted zones? Why can't I just fly over there? It looks empty. Well, these rules aren't just random. They're directly connected to national security and protecting our most critical infrastructure. Let's just look at the numbers for a second. First up, there are 490 locations across the country that are officially designated as important targets. You can think of these as places of national significance that need an extra layer of security, making them a definite no-go for unauthorized flights. But wait, it doesn't stop there. On top of those 490, there are another 911 areas that are labeled as prohibited areas. And the key word there is prohibited. It's absolute. These zones are strictly off limits to civilian drones, pretty much no matter what. And to cap it all off, you can add another 1,026 places that are classified as restricted places. So when you do the math, you're talking about thousands of sensitive sites. And that is why checking a reliable drone map before every single flight isn't just a good idea, it is absolutely essential. So what kind of places are we actually talking about? Well, this gives you a pretty clear picture. These restrictions are in place to protect the absolute backbone of the country. Everything from airports and military bases to power plants, oil depots, and key government buildings. A drone in the wrong place at the wrong time could be a very serious threat. At the end of the day, all of these rules, all these regulations, they all boil down to one single idea: building a community of responsible pilots. The entire future of flying drones really depends on us making smart and safe choices every single time we fly. And the great news is, you don't have to figure all this out by yourself. Here in Malaysia, you can join awesome organizations like MUDA or MUDA's Pass. These groups are fantastic. They're great for staying up to date on rules, for connecting with other pilots, and just for promoting safe flying for everybody. So really, it all comes down to a choice. On one side, you've got the reckless flyer, the person who ignores the rules and puts everyone at risk. And on the other, you have the responsible pilot, the one who knows the regulations, respects the airspace, gets the right permits, and always protects the public by having insurance. The choice couldn't be clearer. So as you get ready for your next flight, just take a second to think about that. The sky really is big enough for all of us, but only if we fly with knowledge, with respect, and with a sense of responsibility. So I'll just leave you with this question. What kind of pilot are you going to be?